Angel, where you at? Yep, come on. Putting us to bed. Yeah, I know. I know you know stuff. Yeah, I know. It's sad. Even the squirrels know. All the animals know. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. And it's sad that everybody knows and everybody in the world just is, yeah. I'm going to give it a second for people to come in, the right people. When I know they're here, I'll start. I'm not here for anybody else except for a couple people. Yeah, I know. I know. Here. All right. Remember him? Remember him? She'll see him. She'll see him all right. She misses him. She misses him. I gotta get it right. Gotta get all of you right. Okay? When it speaks about in this Bible, I was wrongfully put behind bars. That's why Jesus barred Joseph for 10 days, total of 10 days, for things I did not do. Adam did do them. The Sid story, there are 9 members in Slipknot. Each member wears a mask. That mask represents individuals out in the world. Eli likes being a DJ, likes making music, electronic music. So the Sid, him wearing a toxic mask because Eli is toxic. So, Eli, you have a child with a woman. Hence the story between Kelly and Sid, which is not real. It's just the show. It's not real. None of it's real. It's just the show. They are showing in real time what is happening to people out in the world who are not actors, who are of the Bible. Even though they're of the Bible, these are literally individuals of the Bible. So know. Eli is Adam. Literally Adam. Which is where you get into Genesis. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All of this, from the beginning of Genesis, we have to go back to the first fall of heaven, the crescent city, the crescent moon. So the crescent city, I had things spoken about me throughout my life. Our lives are reflections of each other, just as sin is a reflection of everybody's sin is a reflection of everybody. Even if somebody doesn't sin in their life, they just are born and they just feel like they don't sin. Other people's sin that they've never met affects them. Everybody's a reflection of each other, life and death. From the beginning and the end, Genesis and everything. When I'm reading this Bible, and I go to literally the beach, and I will read, alignment and reflection is I'm reading the names. So if I go and I read all the names in time, here, I'll show you right now how this works. All the names in time are a conversation. Just as you read the words, people will skip over these names. Oh, I don't have to read the names. The names are the most important. So, he's showing on his phone. He's talking about the bar, showing the bar. I'll help with all of it. See, she fed up with all of it, and I'm helping with all of it. But that is Ezra. You have the Joker and the witch. The witch is fed up with the abuse of women. So I got wrongfully accused of something I never did. I'm not saying his actions are good or bad, because I don't judge him by his actions or her by her actions, because I know the truth. I say that in a sense of I don't talk about this garbage on this garbage here of other people's stuff. If I want to speak to him, I'll speak to him right, not on this garbage. The Sid story for Slipknot is a representation of Adam. Adam is being toxic. That's why Sid wears a mask. Sid is not out of Slipknot. It is literally all propaganda. That's why Jim Root, get to the root. Where's the root? Genesis. Jim is a mirror of the root. J, I'm a Mia. So Jim is a mirror of the root of David. So Jim Root plays the guitar. So he plays what? Rhythm guitar or lead guitar? Mick Thompson, okay, Michelle Thompson is the witch. That means Eli is Adam and Eve. So Michelle, I'm not talking about this Michelle. I'm not talking about Michelle Obama on the world stage either. Renegade and Michelle, those are actors. Those are just actors playing roles that were doing things really bad in time on the world stage, in the highest levels of life, disgusting things that I don't care about. They're all been caught. The people who they are reflecting in time, like they're wearing a mask, okay, just like Slipknot is wearing a mask. Underneath the mask are people who they represent in time. So Jim put out a statement saying, do not believe everything you see from TMZ. TMZ just represents the T clothesline. Megadeth has all the children hanging on the clothesline. That means Adam and Eve. All the children of Adam and Eve. All the serpents, the serpent, snake, all of it. Megadeth. Yeah. You have T, the M is mom, Mary, and the Z is the end. They basically just put out all the propaganda of the world stage. As you see through the windows in time of your eyes, they put out in the world your life of the actors playing your life, but you don't know this. That's the Bible. So the Bible and I'm saying, I'm gonna repeat myself here. They're mocking the Bible. Devil mocks the Trinity. Do you understand what I'm saying? They are representing people on the world stage who are wearing masks of real people's lives who don't do what they're doing on the world stage or have done to children, trafficking, all the hurt, all the disgusting filth of this world. So Jim put out a tweet saying, do not believe everything you see, think deeper, think this. Jim Root, to get to the root, the beginning and the end. Jay, I'm a mirror, yeah. So Sid is this, Adam. Adam is Sid. Adam is a kid, Adam. So in order for Adam to not be toxic and stop with his garbage, Adam has to stop fighting and trying to do things. This is what it means, what be at Crescent City. God came to Moses in a burning bush with a serpent. Adam is the serpent, okay? In the beginning, Adam and Eve, the serpent, on a staff, okay? In a burning bush. The burning bush represents Mary, the mother. That's why it's Laura Bush, George Bush, the monkey on your back, George, the father, Texas. I mean, I don't think I should have to say any of this or show any of this or even speak about any of this. Everyone should just be like, oh, I'm going to go to Genesis and read the names in Genesis. And when it says Kenanon, oh, Kennedy. Okay, so everything that it speaks about is a reflection from then and now. So when I read these names, I'm having a conversation using literally the names in time with the beginning and the end. That's what the names are for. That's why it's Babylon, Babel, but time out on that. Back to Adam. Now I'm speaking to Kelly, but I'm not speaking to Kelly. Kelly's just an actor. Kelly puts out on the world stage what is happening to Adam without Adam putting his business out there, and the actors use their lives in a way so that they can relay messages to the people out here in the world that they're rich. They if they come in down a nobody's street, Noah, God's just a nobody. Nobody. That's why it's Noah. So these people on the world stage, the big wigs, the big money makers, the big idols on the world stage, you all flock over. If they came down a nobody's street, what? Then all of a sudden people care? They don't want that. So they utilize their ways in time exactly how it's always been since the early 1900s, since beyond any of us were even born. Okay? Reflections in time, like a mirror. Meerkat. That's why it's Timon and Pumbaa, meerkat. So Kelly represents Eli's girlfriend at one time, the mother of his child, and they're saying, hey, this is what's wrong with Eli, and this is why he's being toxic, and that's why Sid wears a mask, because he's a DJ, and he wants to be a DJ and make music on a soundboard. Sid's not out of Slipknot, so anybody entertaining that, you're just a part of the Walking Dead. You're literally just a zombie. If you're truly of God, you'll know that the reflections of the world stage, all the darkness, all the light, is in this book. Everybody's names are in this book of darkness and light. They split everything up and make, the house of Satan, the house of this. It already says Satan falls. The first beast and the second beast, the mark of the beast, all of it, the dragon, all of it. It all says it's false. So why would you go outside? That's the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch is Adam's brother. That's why it had to be Adam and Enoch. Adam Knock. I grew up with a guy named Adam Knock, and they have a street, Knock. So all the knock jokes, all the Mormons, those are people branching off away from the first sin of Adam. Okay, so Barack Obama selling secrets to all the secret societies, Scientology, this, that. There's no aliens. You guys are just like something else, man. You guys are entertaining some crazy conspiracy theories going on your podcast, and it's truly just mind-boggling that it's all literally right here, but you all literally prove and show and literally expose yourselves for being the propaganda agents you are. Because if you were truly of God, you would read these names and you were like, oh, I see it now. I see all of it. But you have to speak like a child of God. See? So Z-A-T-T-U, 2 T's is P, pi. So the attitude of pi. Everybody has to have an attitude. So when you see this, Zatyu, one of the names, sons of Zatyu, in the book of Ezra, that's ends at, means your attitude, and your pi, meaning the pi is keys to my God. You have to have the right attitude to see and earn your elevation of consciousness. In order to see, and you'll have a conversation in time. And when you read these names, if you go to the beach and somebody's passing you by, you'll be reading a name and you'll be like, they're just passing you by, and that name that you're reading says in time, for that very specific moment in time. So a book written thousands of years ago, people that written down, scribes thousands of years ago, knew in time a very moment that I would be sitting on a beach and somebody was bending over to pick rocks up on the beach, and I'm sitting there. She's bending over for you to pick rocks up, meaning picking up the rocks that people are throwing. That's one of the names, bending over for you. And no, I'm not talking about in a bad, disgusting, filthy-minded way. No, I'm saying there's rocks on the beach and picking up the rocks, because the next name on it was exactly that. That's how this works. They won't teach any of you this at all. Why? So now getting back to Adam and the world stage, because that's how all of this works. But every single last one of you entertain what you entertain in a way that's just causing a mark of the beast. They already started in New York. You have, and they're giving you guys an excuse. We want to monitor who's selling goods and who's actually being loyal to New York, and that you have to have a library card to go get food in New York now. Exactly as I said, like, they're showing you guys are entertaining what you're entertaining, and it's causing the mark of the beast when everything that you have is right in front of you, but you just don't see it. Those who see won't see. You won't see. Why? Because you don't see even in your own heart to even know your own heart to even go. So back to Adam and the world stage. No, Sid is not out of Slipknot. That is just literally communications in time, speaking of the Bible, okay, of somebody who is being toxic to he wants to get back with the woman he was with, who he has a child with, and she has 2 children that aren't his, but he wants to be a father to those children. Kelly and Sid, they're just actors showing communications in time of somebody in time, Adam, in the Bible, of what's happening in his life and that he needs help. But everyone's running away from him and says he's toxic. And I'm one of those people. I say, Eli, this is my transgression against you. When you go open to Samuel, when you open up Samuel and you read about Eli, that's all of this is reflections in time. They're all reflections. All the stories are reflections of each other in time. That's why Esther is Esther. Esther is a reflection in time. Everything that's happening, for example, like, I was sitting on the beach, sit rep, 1247, 842, 26, 1247. Perez, it's a sit rep. I was sitting, and ends it all right here. When you sit in time, each moment in time matters, but you don't, when you're reading the Bible, these people on their podcasts, if they truly were of God, they would be teaching you all of this in time and say, oh, I see my moment in time that God, if every one of our hairs is numbered, that means every single one of these words is like our hair. And every single one of these words is a reflection, a mirror of our lives. So therefore, if we're reading in time and you are in reflection, in alignment in time with God's words, you'll be like, oh, you're sitting right there, the color of shirt you're at. It says right here in the name, it says that exactly the color of shirt you're wearing in time. This is here. Everything is written in time when you're reading it. But when you go to church, all they do is go up there and parrot the words. Why isn't anybody teaching this the right way? Why isn't anybody showing this the right way? because the devil is trying to infiltrate all. So this is a blueprint. So Matthew, 2 T's is pi. The map is within you. What's the matter with you? Yeah, everything in the Bible that you see is upside down and forwards and backwards. So when you see MI, it's actually WI, and it actually says Wisconsin, and it says names in this Bible that people are afraid to say out in the world. That's why you guys all flock to your podcast and your biggest name YouTubers and this and that. When the real happenings are happening, you guys entertain the world stage. Breaking news: Sid Wilson is kicked out of Milwaukee Sun. Yeah. So the Milwaukee Sun is saving Sid. That's why there's Sid Vicious in wrestling, because he's being vicious. He's being vicious because he wants something. And this is the part, Eli, when I was standing on top of that burning bush, on top of the fire pit, you walked away from me. You walked away from me. That's why it says what it says in Samuel. Sam saw you. I saw you. You only saw with half an eye. Saw you. So Apostle Thomas was sawn in half. So all of those, Thomas, all the Tom-Toms, all the little Adams, the Thomases, all the little Thomases. That's why the world stage, they cover their head, their face like that garbage, that cult garbage. That's Apostle Thomas, only seeing with one eye. So all the people of the Illuminati, they see with one eye because they come from Apostle Adam. So Adam, all the reflections in time. Oh, right, yeah. Exactly. Everything is alignment and reflection. Everyone mirrors each other, but they're either awake or asleep, and they see it or they don't. So what I'm getting at is, I know that Eli's baby mother. Now, if I were speaking in terms of world stage, this would be Kelly Osbourne. This is Kelly and Kay. She's just an actor. Sid and her are just fine. Sid is still in Slipknot. Eli is trying to get back with the woman he loves, but he did a lot of hurtful things and said a lot of hurtful things, and she doesn't want anything to do with him because he's being toxic. Okay? This is the toxic gas mask that Sid wears. I know she's going to hear this and listens to this. You're going to give him a year to get his act together. Now we're getting to the book of Acts. Get your act together. Now we get into the book of Acts. Now you get into, before I get into the book of Acts, Job. Eli has to go through Job. And Job is Dr. Pepper. Jay left Bob right. So I left Bob right so that I can speak. That's why it's Little Rock, Arkansas. The warthog. So the warthog, the warthog. Okay, that's why it's 1029 The Hog in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the radio station 1029 The Hog. So Bob Joyce, Elvis, the Evil King. Okay, that's Ozzy Osbourne, the Dark Prince, the Evil King, Elvis. Okay, that's Job. Okay, everybody has to leave Bob right, meaning he's going to show you, but you have to take a little bit of what he's saying and apply it to your life. Don't just take what he's saying and say, oh, like you go to the church on Sunday, they go up there and parrot the words of a Bible, but you have no idea what any of it really means, a true alignment and reflection. Some do, some don't. He has to go through Job. He has a year, literally a year, to go through Job and get his act together. Now we get into the book of Acts, because Eli is acting a fool, which that's why John, yes, Kennedy Jr., that's why John wanted nothing to do with him out in Crescent City. So now you get into the book of Acts and Daniel, and Eli's in denial. Daniel. That's also Crescent City talk. Crescent City, California talk. Eli's in denial. And he feels lost because the one individual who understood him, I know your heart better than you know your heart, he left because he was supposed to be a hitman, realizing, oh, and that's Johnny Cash, Big Iron, Iron Rod, Big Iron, all of it. Yeah. Johnny Cash. Yeah. So that's why it's John's son, Johnny Cash, all of it. That Eli's John's son. So getting into the book of Acts is where he just needs to go to church. And when I say go to church, I go to church Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like whenever I just go, and I'll sit in the church for a couple hours just to sit in silence, read the book. That's it. He needs to get into the book of Acts and see his reflection and stop with this, I want to be a DJ, I want to live a dream, I want to do this, I want to do that. You should probably live in your reflection and know your reflection before you start trying to walk in a false reflection, because you were given power. This is where it says in the Bible, a bear with lion's teeth. Yeah, that's you. That's why I told you to take the bear thing off, because it didn't suit you, Adam. So when you get into the book of Acts, 9:25. Yeah, the book of Acts is right after John. So John is the gospel according to John. The word became flesh. This is why John didn't like be called John, because there's two Johns. John Denver, which is the black horse, the dark horse, which is where Eli needs to be in the book of Acts. Because you're acting atrocious. Of the Holy Spirit. Ascension, which is on the northeast side of Milwaukee, which is the hospital. I went there and walked around the fountain of youth. This is where it's Wet Willie in what is it called? World Industry Skateboards, Wet Willie and Flame Boy. Ascension is you are ascending in the wrong way, in the wrong manner through Enoch. And you're taking advantage of your family on why there's an Enoch outside of the house of God and pretending to be somebody you're not. And when somebody gives you power and authority in the Spirit, you're not getting it from the Holy Spirit. And that's your problem. You didn't earn your right to have what is meant to be had by you. You forcefully took it in a way, and you were given something in a way that didn't belong to you because you didn't earn it. Acts is where you will find that, but only you can earn it. And the only way to earn it, truly, is to find it through woman. When you find it through woman, that's why it's Adam and Eve. You find the Spirit through woman. You are reborn in the spirit of the womb. So when you are, if this is the top of your head, Adam, the apple, okay? Now you have the Adam's apple, okay? If this is the water and you bring your head above water, that's bringing your head above the waters from the devil. If this is the water, my head is above the water now. I'm crowning. You're crowning out of the womb. Find your act through woman, but you can't do that. If woman can't connect with you, how are you ever supposed to connect with you? That's why it's Adam and Eve. So you're finding yourself in all the wrong ways. And woman can't connect with you in the ways that woman wants to, because woman doesn't want to be a part of what you want to be a part of, and you're literally taking it out on her. That's why it's Kelly and Sid on the world stage of Slipknot and this and that. It's not real. That's all fake, but your life is real. Their lives are real, Kelly and Sid, but they have to portray and act on the world stage as they are. So TMZ breaking the story of Sid being kicked out of Slipknot has nothing to do with Sid. That has everything to do with Adam Elias Rodriguez of the Bible. Adam comes from the literally the bloodline of Adam. His brother is Enoch. You have to find yourself in reflection, but you walked away from that. And I'm not that reflection. I'm just somebody who knows, because everything you're going through was what the Bible says about me, that I went through wrongfully accused. So now you have a year to find yourself, Acts, to truly get back into her heart and light your heart on fire. That's why we went to Washington. You smothered your fire. Every time I said, hey, Eli, start a fire, you couldn't start it. But I started my fire perfectly in Crescent City, no problem. That's Elijah and Elijah. Elijah said, bring your 400 people, I'll bring my 400 people. Elijah showed up alone. I'm by myself. I started my fire perfectly at the lighthouse in Crescent City. We go up to Washington, the first fall of heaven. Washington, George. That's why it's George Magazine, John's son, George. You couldn't start your fire. You smothered your heart. Smothering your heart means woman can't connect with your heart. And somebody who is literally not smothering his heart, you're all jealous. And the woman who wants to be with me, you're all jealous. And you do whatever it is to stop that. Yeah, you play your black magic, witchcraft games, and warlock games, and all those games. But yet, here I am, saying, hey, Eli, all the things that you've done over the last how many months, 3 months, to me, I know what she's had to endure. Yeah. What you've been doing here to me without being here, fighting. This is why it's Jacob fought God and took out his hip. You lost your hip. You lost your hip, Jacob, because you lied. Eli lied. You lied. And you played your witchcraft warlock games. And I'm not talking about the sick, disgusting warlock crap that they do on the world stage as actors behind closed doors. I'm talking about literally, you played war with the spirit, locking the spirit out of people's lives, thinking that you were somebody who you weren't. And when you got called out, now you have the world stage saying, hey, he's right. And the world stage has to now pretend on the world stage, and Sid has to go through things. See how all of our lives reflect each other? You have nothing to do with the world stage, but the world stage has to reflect your life. That's sin. That's how sin works. The keys of death in Hades. Hades is Maya Hattie, which is, she used to live in Sin City. This is sin. So everybody's sin reflects each other. So now you and your life, other people have to reflect on your life just to give communications and time to say, hey, this is what he's going through. Why should they have to put on the world stage in any way, shape, or form that Sid's getting kicked out of Slipknot because he's being toxic or this or that, and Kelly has to go put false information, which I'm not saying anything bad about Kelly. Kelly's a good person. She's a great mother, and her and Sid are going to get happily married, and everything's going to be fine. What I'm saying is the world stage garbage that they have to do because of people's lives to give communications in time is absolute complete crock of garbage. Complete garbage. So I think, Elias, you owe Kelly and Sid a huge apology, and maybe that'll be a big start. That'll be a huge start to get back with the woman that you love, the mother of your child. Yeah. Maybe that'll be a big start to say, hey, I apologize to the people on the world stage who are affected by your life and your actions and what you had to go through, just to give communications in time to somebody who shouldn't have to deal with you. Why? Because you walked away from me. You walked away. I didn't walk away from you. I willingly came to somebody who is ready to what? End my life. Over what? Esther's lies. Esther. That's the book of Esther. So if you want to get down to the real nitty-gritty on why your life is the way it is, I suggest you literally go and say, you know what, Kelly Osbourne, Sid Wilson, you apologize to them because they have to go through on the world stage what they have to go through, and TMZ has to make false reports of this and that, of somebody who are actors playing roles in the life of people on the world just to give communications and time to people is absolutely ridiculous. That's the world you all have lived in all these years, but nobody saw it. Those who see don't see. That's how you read this book in time, Reflections in Time. So I suggest if you really want to be lifted up, Adam, you start doing things right. I'm not going to hold your hand. I'm not kicking the little rock. I'm not stubbing my toe on a rock, which you are that little rock, Arkansas, the little Bob, the little Adam. So you have to go through Job. You have to lose everything here in your heart that you once held on to, and in your life lose everything, and you gain everything. You don't want to do that. You want to cut corners, as many people in this world want to cut corners. I didn't cut corners. I lost everything. I have nothing. I don't have nowhere to lay my head. I'm still in Mama's house. Yep, still in Mama's house. 38 years old at Mama's house. But y'all have everything but nothing. The one who has nothing has everything. But yet you walk away. That's fine. It doesn't bother me none. I'm still here showing you, as I shown in Revelation. It says I shone. I-S-H-O-N. Eshone. It says right in Revelation, or in Genesis, iPhone. I'm on an iPhone. You just have to see it. You don't want to open up this book. You want to live a dream. You want to post pictures of axes and desert eagles and all this garbage on the world stage because you have access to Enoch information. Knock, knock. We don't want to do things the right way. You want to cut corners. Enoch is cutting corners. That's why Enoch was taken out with God. To say, hey, no cutting corners. There's no cutting corners. Enoch means cutting corners. And if you're clinging on to Enoch, you're probably most likely a propaganda agent, putting alien propaganda out in the world, or just spewing out babble, psycho-babble, that's eventually going to be put to an end. So, that's all I have to say, really. The first Adam is a dead end. Anybody who gravitates towards Adam outside of God, it's just a dead end. That's Enoch. That's sin. The keys to death and Hades. And hell followed with them. Hades is sin. It's Hattie. Death Valley. What's death? Sin. Enoch is sin. Alien. You shrink when you sin. You shrink in here. You shrink in here. And you sin, you shrink. And then it's death after death. The second death. Beast Street. The first fall of heaven. The second death. The first fall of heaven is the second heaven, which is the first hell. Which hell? Witch hell. Literally witch. The witch. W-I-T-C-H. Witch hell. Mitchell International Airport. Witch hell. Everything that the people need or want is all around them. Everywhere, all around the world. Every name in this book matters. And it's a conversation you could have in time, literally with God, in every moment of your life. You could open up this book and be like, oh, I'm in direct alignment with where I'm supposed to be with God right now. And this name and this name and this name, when I read it and I read it forwards and backwards, inside and out, it's literally spelling out a whole conversation in time. Exactly how it's done in the cemeteries when you go and actually honor life. You're honoring life in this book just as you're honoring life. That's why it says, don't desecrate the gravestones, graveyards. I will make gardens out of your graveyards. That doesn't mean your gardens in your graveyards. That means Death Valley is a desert, which is a place of war, which is a place of what? Death, sin. So all of the deserts in the world are reflections of sin, of war. All the water in the world is a reflection of like a mirror. A water means mirror. Just like the veins, the blood in your veins is a mirror. It's a mirror. When it says, drink this chalice, it's a cup of my blood, you're not drinking actual blood. You're drinking reflection. You're eating the bread of life in reflection. Come on. Seek level waters. Exactly, because if this devil owns this fence, this is level waters. But this is literally what it means to be the Red Sea when it's the waves. So if you're crowning out of the womb in the spirit, to be reborn in the spirit. The devil owns that fence. So when you're below the fence, that's the book of Ezekiel. Below the ground is you're walking through the valley of bones. And you're learning how to be one with death, to know what it truly means to be of life. Ezekiel. So when you're of life, you're crowning above the ground level. Now what happens when you're actually like literally above? Now you're Jesus. Now you understand Jesus walking on water. What happens when the world crowns fully above, or your bodies are fully above the water of life? And I'm not talking about the waters out that like you see. I'm talking about the spiritual waters. Then you'll understand what it means to actually walk on water. Truly. Yeah, I know. You got to leave that gross stuff right. Literally, you have to leave that gross stuff right, Eli. Because you're never going to get the woman you love back if you don't leave that gross stuff. You're not. Even they're agreeing with me in the back. Revelation, Revy. You got to leave that. Because I don't want no part of your life or anybody else's life that you have a part of if you're a part of that gross stuff. All that gross stuff, all that gross world stage stuff, everything you know on the world stage, I want no part of any of it because I'm not a part of it. I never have been. But you just want to be a DJ and you want to go out and make music and party and drink and just do things that, man, that's what it means in the Bible when it says the old world and the old heaven will pass away. Because everybody knows that the world that you live in is the world that Satan, that devil built, and God's creation and God's reflection is within Satan's creation, but it has to be a yoke. What happens when you plant a mustard seed? It blooms out. So if everything above ground is Satan's work and you plant that mustard seed starts below ground and it blooms. So what happens? We're at that blooming moment where everything's starting to bloom in your heart and in your minds. That's why Satan fears all of God's people, because those who start truly blooming, yeah, leave that gross stuff behind. I'm telling you. If you have to go into the house of God every day for a month, find a church that's open every day, just from a certain time, and just go and read the Bible and find your reflection in that Bible, and you'll see everything happening around you, even to the people that you've never met. They'll be in direct alignment and reflection with you to the words you're reading right in front of you with your eyes. You'll be reading a book, and the name in the book, when it lists all those names, the people that are passing you by are those names in reflection in time. But you have to see it forwards, backwards, inside, and out of each name. If you read this way, The United States reads this way, left to right. Hebrews read that way, but you still can read that way with English, and you read inside and out. You'll see it. But those who see it won't see it, because you're not in alignment or reflection. You haven't earned that level of consciousness. That's what it means. So next time you go into the church and you talk to your pastors and your deacons and your bishops, ask them to show you true alignment or reflection with God. See what they do. See what they say. Love you.